All right. So let's go to unprovoked. Now, here's a mystery. This could have happened at any time over the last 20 years or any time into the future over the next 20 years, but it happened now. And there are accusations of all sorts flying around on the political front in the West about why now. As far as you're concerned, why now? And is there a lesson in the fact that it's now for us? So I'll go into this a little deeper. I read a couple of papers by Victor Davis Hanson yesterday, and he made a claim that was approximately the following, which is that the Democrats, for example, under Obama, talked about Russia in a negative way, but really didn't do anything about Russia, whereas Trump gave Putin flattery in some sense, but actually did something about the potential danger they posed. And I'm not claiming that that's a valid argument or an invalid argument. It's just something that I read when I was trying to prepare for this. Why now? Because it is being politicized like mad in the West. We think, well, Putin is taking advantage of our perceived weakness, and there's partisan reasons for that, and maybe there's deeper philosophical reasons for that. Those need to be separated. As far as you're concerned, why now? And then we do need to get to also maybe how we stepped into this, even if it was only 20% our fault or 2%, I don't care. What did we do wrong that made this happen and happen now?
So look, the question, the answer to the question why now is very hard, I think, and this is something that I'm also wrestling with, because what we need to explain is the invasion. That Putin has been carrying forward operations to regain control of Ukraine since 2014. He has been pursuing hybrid warfare approaches. He's been pursuing informational operation approaches in Ukraine. He's put various forms of military pressure on Ukraine from his occupied territories.
Right. So it's not exactly now. This is actually an extension of a process that's been occurring for a long time.
It's an inflection in that process. Now, so what we need to explain this particular inflection, which is a huge inflection, but that's actually rather hard, to be honest with you. And there's no simple partisan or straightforward explanation to why Putin decided that he needed to invade now, which is the question that preoccupies me as someone who's focused on Putin's calculus.
Well, the best explanation I've heard so far, and it goes along with this gradualist idea in some sense, is that part of what Putin did while he was attempting to wrest back control of Ukraine, let's say, is build a military presence on the border.
Yeah.
And then the fact that you've done that actually changes the situation substantially. If you're going to if you're much more likely to shoot someone with a gun if you happen to be holding it and pointing it at them as a precursor. And so you could see how a gradualist approach, and his initial idea might have just been, well, we'll build up the military to put even more pressure on the West and to continue this gradualist approach. But once it's there, the situation changes. And then it could be, in some sense, relatively small and relatively random events that precipitate it at any given moment.
So I think it's quite possible that something like that occurred. There's a lot of technical details about, so I want to say on the air to you what I've been saying to other people that I talked to. I got this wrong. Okay, we made a forecast. I and the ISW Russia team made a forecast beginning in November and then carrying forward until very recently that Putin would not launch this huge invasion. And we were wrong. Obviously, he did. And I, as a matter of analytical integrity, I feel it necessary to say to people explicitly, yes, we were wrong in our forecast. And we've spent a lot of time trying to understand and think about why we were wrong and what lessons we can learn from that. Here's one of the reasons why we were wrong. Or let me say, this is one of the reasons why we forecast that he would not do this. Because when you look actually at the technical details of the way that he arrayed his forces around Ukraine, we were watching that and saying, this is going to stink, this military operation that he's conducting. He's not well set up to do this. Surely his professional military officers are going to tell him that this is a bad idea. And it turns out that we were wrong that he would be persuaded by that reality, but we were right that it was a bad idea.